Ethan lived alone on the edge of the forest, far from every noisy road and bright street. Most nights were quiet, but this night felt strange. The wind was too still. The trees were too silent. Even the creek behind his wooden house made a different kind of sound, like something heavy had moved through the water. He stepped out with a small flashlight, thinking it was maybe a deer or a wild animal searching for food. But when he reached the old wooden fence that separated his yard from the creek, he stopped. Something soft was glowing behind the trees. The light wasn't white or yellow. It was blue. Smooth, cold, moonlight blue. Ethan's heart beat faster. What was glowing in the water? He moved slowly, careful not to step on dry branches. When he reached the edge of the trees, he saw the creek clearly. The glowing light was coming from the middle of the water, and someone was in it. At first, he thought it was a woman. She was tall, slender, and sitting in the water with her back turned to him. Her long hair floated around her like dark smoke. But the strange thing was the water around her didn't move normally. It shimmered like liquid glass. Every ripple carried blue light. Ethan froze where he stood. He had lived here for years. He knew every rock, every tree, every sound. But he had never seen anyone like this. The woman in the water raised her head slightly, and the glowing water moved with her, like it followed her commands. Ethan felt cold air on his skin. Something inside him whispered, "She is not human." He took one slow step back, but the ground betrayed him. A dry leaf cracked under his foot. The woman stiffened. Her head slowly turned. Her shoulder dipped. The glowing water around her hardened into a thin shield. Ethan stopped breathing. Then he saw her face. It was beautiful, but not in a human way. Her skin shone like polished stone. Her eyes were bright silver, round at the edges but changing shape like swirling liquid metal. But what shocked him the most was how her face moved. Lines shifted under her skin, like it was soft or unfinished. Like her face didn't know what shape it wanted to be. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The alien girl stared at him with fear, confusion, and pain. Her silver eyes flickered, almost begging him to stay away. I didn't mean to frighten you," Ethan said softly, raising both hands. His voice shook a little. "I live here. I just heard something." But the alien seemed too weak to respond. The glowing water shield around her cracked like thin ice. She tried to stand, but her knees buckled. The light in the water dimmed, as if reacting to her weakening body. Ethan stepped forward without thinking. "Hey, wait, don't fall." The girl tried to push herself up again. Her hair clung to her back, dripping with blue droplets that faded into the air like smoke. She finally looked at Ethan fully, and something terrifying happened. Her face changed. It didn't transform like a mask being removed, melted. Her features shifted like warm wax. Her eyes changed shape. Her jawline moved. Her skin darkened, then lightened. Within a second, she suddenly looked like a young human woman, scared, fragile, and exhausted. Ethan stumbled backward in shock. What? How did you?" The girl tried to speak. Her voice was soft, shaky, and filled with pain. "Don't be afraid." But before she could finish, her body gave out. She fell forward into the water, the glowing light breaking apart like shattered glass. Ethan jumped in without thinking. The water felt colder than ice, but he reached her quickly. She was light, too light, almost like holding a shadow. He lifted her out of the creek and laid her gently on the grassy bank. Up close, her face shifted again, only slightly this time, like it couldn't hold any shape for long. Her breathing was weak. Her skin felt like smooth stone. Her fingers trembled as she reached for him. Her silver eyes opened halfway. She looked at Ethan like he was the first warmth she had felt in a long time. Then she whispered one sentence that froze Ethan to his very core. "Please, don't let them take me back." And just like that, the forest behind Ethan's house felt dangerous. The night felt heavier. And he realized this alien girl had not come here by accident. Asterisk, asterisk, she was running from someone. Someone close. Someone coming. Ethan carried the strange girl carefully toward his house, his clothes dripping from the cold creek water. She was lighter than she looked, almost weightless, as if her bones were hollow or made of something softer than human bone. Her skin still glowed faintly, but the light flickered like a candle fighting the wind. He pushed open his door with his shoulder and laid her on the old couch near the fireplace. For a moment, he just stared at her, trying to understand what he had brought inside his home. Her face was still shifting slowly, like it couldn't choose a single form. One moment, she looked human. Next moment, alien. Next moment, something in between. Ethan swallowed hard. He had no idea what he was dealing with. But he knew one thing. She was terrified of being taken back. He grabbed a blanket, wrapped it around her, and lit the fireplace. The orange flame made her glowing skin pulse softly, as if reacting to the warmth. She opened her eyes slightly and flinched in fear. "It's okay," Ethan said quietly. "You're safe here." She looked confused, like the word safe didn't exist in her world. Her lips moved weakly. "You are human." Ethan nodded. The girl touched her chest like she was searching for courage. "I am." "Lyra." Her voice was soft, musical, but heavy with exhaustion. Ethan sat on a wooden chair near the couch. "That's a beautiful name," he said gently. "What happened to you? Who is chasing you?" Lyra's eyes filled with fear. Her pupils changed shape, sharp-wide, then round again like her body reacted to emotions too quickly. "They want my face," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Your face." Lyra hesitated, then raised a trembling hand. She touched her cheek, and for a moment her entire face shimmered like water breaking under sunlight. "I am a face shifter," she said softly. "My kind can look like any species, any person, any form." Ethan stared, remembering how her features melted at the creek. "So you can become anyone?" She nodded slowly. "That is why they hunt us. For war, for lies, for power. They want to use me to start conflicts, to enter planets wearing the faces of leaders, to break trust between species." A cold chill ran through Ethan's body. Her ability was not just rare, was dangerous, too dangerous for anyone to control. Lyra continued, voice shaking. "I escaped from there. Cages. I ran for days. I had no food, no energy to hold a stable form. I came to your creek because I felt warmth there. I thought maybe I could hide." Ethan rubbed his forehead. He looked around his small home. "You chose the wrong place to hide," he said with a nervous breath. "This area is isolated. If they're tracking you, they might already be nearby." Lyra's eyes widened with panic. Her breathing grew fast. Ethan quickly raised a hand. "Hey, AZ. You're safe for now. Tell me what you need." Lyra looked unsure. She was used to fear, not kindness. "I need energy," she whispered. "Warmth and time. Time to stop my face from breaking." "Breaking?" Ethan repeated. Lyra pointed to her cheek. It flickered again, turning smooth, then cracked with glowing lines for a second before returning to normal. "My body reflects my fear," she whispered. "If I feel hunted, I lose control." Ethan stood and went to the kitchen. He warmed a bowl of soup, simple broth, nothing special. But when he brought it back, Lyra stared at it like it was a miracle. "You eat like humans?" Ethan asked. "I eat energy," she said. "But warm food gives me strength too." She used both hands to lift the bowl, almost dropping it because her fingers trembled so badly. Ethan guided her hands. "Slow," he said. "You don't need to rush." She took one sip just. One end, her eyes closed. A soft, warm glow spread across her skin. For the first time, her face held one shape for more than a second. Her breathing slowed. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. "You helped me," she whispered. "Humans, they always fear my kind. They fear what we can do." Ethan shook his head. "I fear the ones chasing you, not you." Her eyes softened in surprise. She stared at him like she couldn't believe what she heard. Then suddenly, Lyra froze. Her glowing skin dimmed. Her pupils sharpened like a frightened animal. Ethan turned toward the window. A faint buzzing sound echoed from the forest. Lyra whispered in a trembling voice, "They found me." Ethan felt the hair on his arms stand up. Not just fear. Something darker, heavier. "Who?" Ethan asked. Lyra's voice cracked. "The trackers." And the buzzing grew louder, closer, hunting. The buzzing grew louder, deep and metallic, like a swarm of machines moving through the thick forest. Ethan hurried to the window and pressed the curtain aside. The night outside was dark, but he could see faint flashes, thin red scanning lines sweeping across the trees. Lyra pulled the blanket tighter around herself, her breathing sharp and uneven. The soft glow under her skin flickered wildly. "They will see me. Even through walls," she whispered. "Their scanners feel my energy. My fear makes me brighter." Ethan stepped away from the window and knelt beside her. "Then we stop your fear," he said, even though his own heart was pounding. "Look at me. You're safe inside. They can't just break into my home." Lyra's eyes shimmered like liquid silver. "They can break stone. They can break stronger things than your home." A shout echoed from the woods, cold, sharp, and in a language Ethan didn't understand. Another voice answered from the opposite side of the creek. "They were surrounding the area. We need to hide you," Ethan said quickly. Lyra shook her head. "Your hiding places cannot stop energy scanners." "Maybe not," Ethan said, "but I have something they won't expect." He helped her stand. She could barely walk. Her legs trembled like she might collapse again. Ethan grabbed her arm gently and pulled her toward the back door. "Where are we going?" She whispered. "To my barn," Ethan said. "I have a trapdoor. It's old, but the floor is layered with metal sheets. Maybe it can confuse their scanners." Lyra hesitated. "Metal? Yes. If I make my body cold, very cold, maybe they won't feel me." "Then let's move," Ethan said. They slipped outside quietly. The buzzing in the forest was louder now, like mechanical insects searching for prey. Lyra's skin dimmed to a faint glow, but she winced with every step, struggling to keep herself cold and calm. When they reached the barn, Ethan opened the wooden doors carefully, trying not to make noise. The smell of old hay and dust filled the air. He guided Lyra inside and moved to the corner where a square patch of the floor looked slightly different. He pulled the rope handle. The wooden section rose with a slow creak, revealing a dark space beneath lined with old metal scraps. "Go inside," Ethan whispered. Lyra looked down, fear in her silver eyes. "You will close the door." "Yes," Ethan said gently. "Only for a little while." She stepped inside, hugging the blanket around her. Before Ethan lowered the trapdoor, "Hush," she lifted her hand and placed her fingers lightly against his. "Ethan," she whispered, "if they find me." "Run." He squeezed her hand firmly. "Not a chance." He lowered the door and covered it with hay and scattered tools to make it look natural. Just as he finished, a heavy metallic thud sounded outside the barn. Ethan froze. Footsteps approached slow. Scanning, hunting. He moved to the side of the barn and peeked through a crack in the wooden wall. Two tall figures walked into view. Their armor was dark and shiny, with long masks that covered their faces completely. Their eyes glowed red like tiny burning coals. Each carried a long staff with a buzzing scanner at the tip, sweeping the air. One of them spoke, voice cold and sharp. She was here. Her energy touched the creek. The other answered, she is weak. She cannot run far. She must be hiding. Their scanners swept across the barn. Ethan held his breath. A thin red beam slid across the walls, across the hay, across the locked tool cabinet. It lingered for a moment over the ground above the trapdoor. Ethan's heart almost stopped, but then the scanner flickered and moved on. Lyra had done it. She had dimmed her energy enough to confuse them. One of the trackers turned toward the house. Search the human dwelling. Ethan felt panic shoot through him. If they entered the house, they would see footprints, the couch, the blanket, too many signs someone had been inside. He had to distract them. Before his mind even finished forming a plan, his body moved. He grabbed a metal wrench from the wall and threw it out the barn window into the trees. Clang. The noise echoed across the forest. The trackers spun instantly. There, both raced toward the sound, their armor slicing through branches. Ethan shut his eyes for a second, trying to slow his breath. He might have just saved Lyra, or he might have brought death closer. He waited for a full minute, listening to the trackers moving deeper into the forest. When the buzzing sounds began to fade, he hurried to the trapdoor and lifted it. Lyra looked up with wide, trembling eyes. You distracted them. For me. Ethan nodded, his chest still tight from fear. I'm not letting them take you. Lyra stared at him like he was something impossible. Something rare, something her world had never shown her. You risked your life, she whispered, voice breaking. No human has ever done that for a phase-shifter. Ethan reached out a hand and helped her climb out. Then maybe, he said softly, you met the wrong humans. Outside, the forest grew silent, again, but not safe. The trackers would return. And next time, they would not search so gently. Ethan guided Lyra back into the house as quietly as possible. The night outside felt heavier now, like the darkness itself was watching them. The glowing patterns on Lyra's skin flickered with every sound, every memory of danger. She held the blanket tightly around herself, her hands shaking from cold and fear. When the door shut behind them, she let out a weak breath. They will return, she whispered. Trackers never stop. They do not sleep. They do not forgive. I know, Ethan said softly, locking the door. But we'll be ready. Lyra lowered herself onto the couch, but this time she didn't curl up or hide her face. Instead, she looked around the small living room, the fireplace, the books on the shelf, the old pictures on the wall, as if she had never stepped inside a real home before. What is this feeling? She asked suddenly. Ethan turned toward her. What feeling? She pressed a hand against her chest, right over the glowing marks that had appeared when she first warmed up. It feels heavy, warm, strange, like my body is changing inside, but I am not shifting shape. Ethan walked over and sat on the edge of the table near her. Maybe it's just fear. Lyra shook her head. No, I know fear. I lived with fear all my life. This is different. Her eyes lifted to his, and for the first time, they didn't change shape. They stayed soft, round, almost gentle. Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't trained for aliens. He wasn't trained for creatures who changed their faces like water. But he could see something human in her eyes. Something he understood. You're safe here, he said quietly. Lyra blinked, surprised by the words. Safe, she repeated softly. Your home feels alive, kind. She reached out and touched the wooden arm of the couch. Her fingers traced the old scratches like they were special. "My people do not build homes," she said. "We build cages. Laboratories. Hiding rooms. No warmth. No fire. No pictures." Her voice cracked a little. Ethan felt a pull in his chest, feeling he had not felt in years. Something protective. Something deep. Lyra suddenly flinched and held her head with both hands. "My face, my format, is trying to settle into something." Her skin rippled like soft waves. "It reacts to emotions. Yours and mine." "What does that mean?" Ethan asked. "It means I am bonding," she whispered. "Face shifters copy emotions, but only bond with someone when they feel trust. Real trust." Ethan blinked. "Bond, like friendship." Lyra shook her head. "No bond is stronger. It means my body is choosing you." Ethan felt heat rush to his face. "Choosing me? For what?" Lyra looked away, embarrassed. "For safety. For connection. For comfort." She paused. "My kind only bond once in a lifetime." Ethan's breath caught. He didn't know if this was good or bad. But Lyra looked terrified of her own confession. "Hey, it's okay," he said softly, touching her shoulder. "You don't need to bond with me. You don't even know me." Lyra shook her head again. "We do not choose it. It chooses us." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "When you carried me from the water, when you fought the trackers, when you looked at me without fear." Her fingers trembled as she touched her chest again. "That is when the bond began." Ethan didn't know what to say. He wasn't prepared for this. But something inside him understood. Lyra wasn't just running from enemies. She was running from a life where no one ever cared for her. Silence filled the room for a moment. Then Lyra looked up at him, eyes shimmering with new emotion. "Ethan, what is this?" She reached out and touched his wrist. "My heart is beating with yours. It feels like they are trying to match each other." Ethan felt it too. A strange, warm rhythm pulsing through the air between them. "That's not normal," he whispered. "For face shifters," she said, "it means a bond is forming." Suddenly, the light from her skin changed color soft gold instead of pale blue. Her face stopped shifting. Her features settled into a form that was neither human nor alien, something balanced. Beautiful and strangely peaceful. "This is my true form," she whispered. "I have never shown it to anyone. Not even my own people." Ethan stared, speechless. Her true form wasn't terrifying. It wasn't dangerous. It was soft, warm, and full of life. Lyra reached out and took Ethan's hand gently. "You have seen what no one has seen," she whispered. "You have touched what no one has touched." Ethan looked at her glowing skin, at her steady eyes. At the soft rise and fall of her breath, something dangerous was still out there in the forest. But something unforgettable had awakened. Inside this small home, Lyra wasn't just hiding. Anymore, she was connecting, bonding, choosing, and the night suddenly felt even more dangerous because now Ethan knew he wasn't protecting a stranger. He was protecting someone who had placed her entire heart, her entire life. In his hands, the fire crackled softly as the night wind brushed against the windows. Ethan sat across from Lyra, trying to understand everything she had revealed in the last few minutes. Her true form still glowed gently, golden and soft, nothing like the cold blue light he first saw in the creek. She looked calmer now, but there was a shadow behind her calm. Something she hadn't told him yet. Lyra held her hands together, eyes lowered. "There is more you must know," she whispered. "More about who hunts me." Ethan leaned forward. "Tell me." Lyra took a slow breath. Her skin dimmed slightly, as if the memory itself drained her strength. "The one who wants me," she said, "is not just a leader. He is a lord. A high lord of the Dominion, the strongest empire in this part of the galaxy." Ethan felt a chill crawl down his spine. "Then why chase you? You're just one girl." Lyra shook her head softly. "To the Dominion, I am not a girl. I am a weapon." Ethan's chest tightened. "Because of your face shifting." Lyra nodded. "Yes, but not only that. The High Lord believes I can become something more. Something dangerous." She moved her fingers across her glowing markings like she was reading a story written on her skin. "Face shifters can copy faces," she explained. "But once in many generations, one of us is born with a deeper gift. A core, a heart that can unlock forms no other species can read or predict." Ethan frowned. "What does that mean?" Lyra looked directly at him, silver gold eyes shining. "It means I can appear as anyone, anything, any soldier, any commander, any leader. I can even copy the energy patterns of entire alien species if I bond long enough." Ethan blinked in shock. "So? You could walk into any place in the galaxy and no one would know it's not them." "Yes," she whispered. "And that is why the High Lord wants me. With me, he can start wars between species. He can break alliances. He can destroy peace." Ethan sat back, overwhelmed. Lyra hugged the blanket closer around herself. "When I was young," she continued quietly, "I was taken from my family. They studied me, trained me, forced me to shift into the shapes they chose. They said I was born to serve, born to obey." Her voice trembled. "I never saw the outside world. Only metal walls, dark rooms, and their eyes watching me change." Ethan clenched his jaw, anger rising in his chest. "That's torture." Lyra nodded slowly. "Face shifters are rare, but those with a core, rarer than stars. The Dominion would kill whole villages just to find one." Her hands shook as she spoke. Ethan reached out and placed his hand over hers. Lyra's trembling stopped immediately, as if the touch calmed the storm inside her. She looked up at him. "That is why I ran," she whispered. "Not for freedom. Not at first." Her voice softened. "I ran because I realized my gift will kill millions if he takes me. I ran to save others, even if I could not save myself." Ethan's throat tightened. She wasn't just a frightened girl. She wasn't just a lost alien. She was carrying the burden of entire worlds. "And now," she said, voice breaking, "because you helped me, they will target you too." Ethan shook his head. "I knew the risk." Lyra stared at him like he had said something impossible. "Why would you risk your life for me?" Ethan looked into her shifting, shimmering eyes. "Because you didn't deserve this. And because no one should face something like this alone." Lyra's breath caught. A small, warmth-filled glow spread across her chest. "But there is another danger," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "More than the trackers?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, the High Lord himself is coming." Ethan stiffened. "Here, he sensed my bond forming," she said. "My connection to you. That means I am becoming stronger and harder to control. So he's coming to kill you." "No," Lyra shivered. "To take me away, alive." Ethan stood, running a hand through his hair. "Then we need to plan. We need a way to stop him." Lyra shook her head, tears rising in her eyes. "No plan can stop him. He commands armies. He controls entire fleets, and he never travels alone." "But you said your bond is forming," Ethan insisted. "Does that make you stronger?" Lyra hesitated. "Yes, but the bond is young, fragile. It needs time to grow." Ethan looked around his small home, this quiet place that was suddenly the center of a galactic threat. "We'll give it time," he said firmly. Lyra stared at him with disbelief and something deeper, something soft and warm. "You would fight a High Lord for me," she whispered. Ethan nodded without hesitation. "I would fight anyone who thinks they can take you." Lyra touched his cheek lightly, her fingers warm and glowing. "You do not understand," she said softly. "You did not just save me." She leaned closer, her voice trembling. "You changed everything. For me, and maybe for the galaxy." The night had never felt so quiet. Not even the wind dared to move. Ethan stood near the window with a hammer in his hand, the closest thing he had to a weapon. Lyra stayed close, her skin glowing faint gold from the bonding. But fear still shook through her body like cold lightning. "They're close," she whispered. "Too close. How do you know?" Ethan asked. Lyra looked toward the forest. "I can feel him. The High Lord's presence is sharp, like a blade touching my mind." Ethan's fists tightened. "Then we don't wait here. We choose the battlefield." Lyra blinked in confusion. "Battlefield?" Ethan nodded. "The creek. It's open space. No walls. If anything happens, I don't want my house trapping us inside." Lyra hesitated, fear flashing through her eyes. "He will kill you." "He won't," Ethan said, "even if he wasn't sure. Because I won't let him touch you." Lyra stared at him, heart pounding in sync with his. The bond pulsed softly between them, warm, living, powerful. Finally, she nodded. "Then, we face him together." They walked toward the creek. The grass was wet under their feet, and the trees leaned in as if watching something terrible approach. The water shimmered faintly in the moonlight, but tonight, it didn't glow with Lyra's energy, felt dark and silent. Waiting. Ethan stood in front of her, gripping his hammer tighter. Lyra touched his arm with trembling fingers. "I have never fought beside someone," she whispered. "My kind hide. We run, we survive. Alone, well," Ethan breathed, "not tonight." Lyra's golden glow brightened for a moment, warm, hopeful. But then it faded as a cold silver light appeared in the trees. A ship descended silently. No fire. No sound. Just stillness. A sleek black craft hovered inches above the ground, its surface rippling like liquid shadow. A long ramp unfolded, touching the earth gently. Footsteps echoed across the clearing. And then he appeared, the High Lord, tall, wrapped in midnight armor that reflected no light, his face hidden behind a smooth mask. His presence alone felt suffocating, like gravity pushing down on every living thing. Lyra gasped and stepped back. "No, no, no." The High Lord spoke, his voice smooth and cold. Lyra, her entire body froze. "You ran far," he said, stepping closer. "You made me waste time. But you cannot escape me." Ethan stepped in front of her. "You're not taking her." The High Lord paused. A human, defending a face shifter. He tilted his head slightly, studying Ethan like he was an insect standing in front of a rocket. "And who are you supposed to be?" The High Lord asked. Her friend, Ethan said, trying to keep his voice steady. The High Lord chuckled, a sound that didn't feel human. "A friend. A human friend. You think you matter? You think you can protect her from me?" Ethan didn't move. "I'm not letting you touch her." The High Lord raised a hand. Energy crackled from his palm, cold, dark, powerful. Lyra screamed, "Ethan, move." But he didn't. The blast hit him full force. Ethan flew backward, crashing into the grass with a painful thud. Lyra dropped to her knees beside him, panic shaking her entire body. Ethan, look at me." He groaned, struggling to breathe. "I'm fine. Just give me a second." The High Lord stepped closer. "You see, Lyra? Humans break so easily." Lyra stood up slowly. Her golden glow flickered, then dimmed, then turned bright white. A deep humming sound filled the air coming from her body. "What is this?" the High Lord said sharply. Lyra lifted her face. Tears fell down her cheeks, glowing like tiny stars. "You hurt him," she whispered. "He protected me. He cared for me. He saw my true form and did not fear me." The humming grew louder. The air around her cracked with light. "I will not run any more," she said. "I am a phase shifter, but I am more." Her entire body burst into radiant light. Her shape stretched, expanded, transformed. Not into another species, but into her true warrior form. Something her kind rarely revealed. Tall, glowing, strong, beautiful, and terrifying at the same time. The High Lord stepped back. For the first time, he hesitated. Lyra lifted her hand. Energy spiraled around her, bright and alive. "This bond gives me strength," she said. "The strength you never wanted me to find." The High Lord fired a blast at her. Lyra caught it in her bare hand. The energy shattered like glass. Ethan watched in awe, barely able to breathe. "Lyra." She looked back at him, eyes filled with fierce determination. "This is my stand." Then she turned toward the High Lord, and the final fight began. The air shook with power. Light burned across the Sioux, clearing as Lyra clashed with the High Lord. Every hit echoed through the trees like thunder. Ethan struggled to stand, leaning against a tree trunk, still dizzy from the blast that had thrown him earlier. But he would not look away. He refused to blink. Lyra was fighting not just for herself, but for him too. The High Lord's armor cracked as Lyra struck him again, her warrior form glowing like a rising sun. She moved with speed and grace Ethan had never seen, every movement sharp and filled with purpose. The High Lord fired another dark blast, but Lyra spun, caught it, and redirected it into the ground, lighting the earth on fire. "You were always dangerous," the High Lord hissed. "This is why your kind must be controlled." Lyra lifted her chin. "No, you control because you fear us." The High Lord charged with a blade made of dark energy. Lyra met him with a shield of light forming from her raised palm. The clash was blinding. Ethan shielded his eyes. The two forces collided, shaking the whole forest. When the light faded, Lyra pushed the High Lord back with a burst of pure, radiant energy. He stumbled, falling to one knee, armor smoking. "You cannot win," he growled. "Your bond makes you unstable. You cannot hold that form long." Lyra's breath shook just once, but she stood tall. "The bond gives me strength," she said. "More strength than you ever imagined." The High Lord rose for one final strike. Lyra closed her eyes, gathering every last drop of energy inside her core. Her body glowed brighter and brighter until her form almost disappeared into pure light. She whispered a word that echoed through the clearing. Ancient and powerful. Enough? She released the energy. A wave of white light blasted through the air, soft, warm, full of life. Not destructive, not deadly. Just powerful enough to send the High Lord flying backward. His armor shattered, his mask cracked open, and his body fell into the water of the creek. Silence finally returned. No buzzing. No voices, no chasing. Lyra slowly collapsed to her knees, her glow fading. She returned to her smaller shape, her warrior form dissolving like mist. Weak and exhausted, she fell forward, but Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. Hey, I've got you," he whispered. Holding her close, Lyra's skin was dim now, glowing only faint gold. "Ethan, are you hurt?" He shook his head. Don't worry about me. You just saved us. Her breathing trembled. I used too much energy. My bond, it kept me standing. But now? Ethan placed a hand on her cheek. I'm right here. You're safe. Lyra looked toward the creek. The High Lord lay motionless, carried slowly by the current. His ship without its master lifted silently into the air and shot into the stars. Abandoning the mission, it's over, Ethan said softly. Lyra looked at him, eyes wet with quiet relief. Because of you? Because you stood for me. Ethan shook his head. You did the impossible, not me. Lyra smiled weakly. You gave me something even more impossible. What's that? Ethan asked. She placed a glowing hand over her heart. Choice. Ethan carried her back to the house. Lyra rested against his chest, too tired to walk, but her heartbeat matched his, warm and steady. He placed her gently on the couch and wrapped her in the blanket. Her face flickered again. Shapes shifting slowly, human, alien, something in between. Is that normal? Ethan asked softly. Lyra nodded. My bond is searching. Choosing. She took his hand and placed it on her chest. I want to choose a face, a stable form, one that feels like home. Ethan felt his heart tighten. Lyra, you don't need to change for me. She shook her head gently. This is not about changing for you. This is about revealing who I want to be beside you. Slowly, her features softened. Her eyes settled into a warm shape. Her hair shifted into flowing strands with a soft golden tint. Her skin glowed gently, neither fully human nor alien, something unique. Something beautiful. This face, she whispered, comes from the bond. From the trust I feel. From the life I want. Ethan stared at her, breath caught in his throat. It's you. Truly you. Lyra moved closer until her forehead rested against his shoulder. I never had a true face before. We only change. Copy, hide. But you saw me? Not my forms. Me. Ethan wrapped his arms around her. I see you now more clearly than ever. Lyra lifted her head, tears glowing softly on her cheeks. Then let me stay. Let me learn this world. Let me learn you. Lyra, he whispered. You're already home. Her face brightened with a warm, soft smile, the face she had chosen. The one she trusted him with. Outside, dawn began to rise over the creek, painting the sky with gold. And for the first time in her life, Lyra wasn't running. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't shifting for survival. She was simply herself with the human who changed everything.